our editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Kleinman.
So it just seems to me in listening to this that Chicago, of many of the cities that we do these events in, has the most open ground in terms of not having a dominant regional brewery that owns the town. In Boston, we have Harpoon. San Diego has any number. Denver, Boulder, all have their brews. Does that create a unique format in terms of fighting off the crafty entries into the market, and how are you guys finding that? Is there more of a battle for those tap handles, or is there just sort of an openness to whoever wants to move into the market and has that higher level of quality?
Well, as far as the crafty beers that we're talking about, I think the Chicago market is pretty darn savvy, and most people kind of recognize those contract brews and those crafty beers, and they're really gonna continue to rely on true craft beer, not contract brews and not just the label. That's just the education level of the market. I think Chicago's a great beer town. We're seeing a big boom with a lot of new small micros and nanos, and just that level of consumer is up there. And I don't really see a lot of competition with those brands just yet. I mean, you do see some of those SKUs in big off-prem stores. Couple of places have had their own brand made for them, in Wisconsin or wherever. I don't see those as a threat or something to really concern myself with. I think that the consumer is going to vote with their dollar and their and their palate, so to speak. If that answers your question.
I kind of interpreted the question a little bit differently. It was the first half of the question was more about what's a lack of identity in a regional brewery, and obviously I'm sure you're going to get argument that Goose Island isn't still a craft brewery and all that sort of thing. But I think that having a very large established craft brewery would only help the beer culture be more visible. We'll probably get more people drinking craft beer in general. Obviously, Lagunitas is coming in very soon, and will, within a year, be certainly the Chicago craft brewery. They're going to have capacity here to be upwards of 1.5 million barrels locally. They have 1.7 million barrels. So
Not initially, of course, though.
well, they have space to do that and diagrams and such. But anyway, much more beer than anyone else is locally producing, and hopefully that'll actually help the climate here and get more people drinking craft beer in general. We do see, craft drinkers they do like to experiment. They like to try a lot of different things. So, it's not like everyone's going to just drink Goose Island and Lagunitas once when they're here. So I think it's going to be good for the community, good for the space, good for craft in Chicago and Illinois.
I see the craft or the craft or crafty beers as a good thing. That those brands are bringing people into a new segment of beer, so it's helping to develop their palate, and then once they do discover Deschutes and Oscar Blues and other great craft breweries, we hope that once they find us, that they'll stick with us. So I think that is, it's all good. It's all good.
And it definitely seems like Deschutes is capitalizing on sort of that open space in the market. You guys have the ability to turn some volume, being a little bit larger than maybe some of the smaller local players, and you got a brand name that people recognize, and definitely some beers that are coveted. Are there things that you're sort of seeing out there that sort of speaks to Jeff's point of there being that open run room in Chicago for brands like Deschutes, maybe?
Time will tell. We are, looking to grow our brand and to build a brand, and we have strategies behind that with Words Beverage, with going with Words Beverage, so we can become a larger brand here. But it's going to take time. It takes time to build brands. I've spent a lot of time building brands, and it takes time. So,
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
I think that's definitely been the mantra for many, many years now in craft, and looks to be the case for a while. And if there's any other questions out there?
Quick question. We've seen mixed packs and seasonal varietals growing in sales and driving pull off shelf. Do you think a flagship is the important way to get your tap handle on, or rotating seasonals are always looking for the newest, the latest, the greatest? So is it more important to drive your seasonals or to push your flagship?
Push the flagship.
Push the flagship. Use the seasonal as,
A reward.
reward, or just to generate some excitement, get something new out there. But yeah, you gotta, the flagship brands have to be the flagship brands,
yeah, we're a little unique. We have two flagship brands. We have Black Butte Porter and Mirror Pond, but those are our key focus.
When you guys come into a new market, like you guys have this year,
Mm-hmm.
you've got so many different offerings as far as on-premise, barrels, bottles, 12 ounce. I don't know if you do 22s or 750s, but between the two of you, who decides what goes where and how much do you bring in? Like right now, are you currently doing more on-premise half barrels, or are you doing more bottles?
Well,
As far as distribution here,
right.
in Illinois,
Well, draft is always gonna
draft is first
draft is
to get it out
absolutely
there on
first.
premise.
It's going to drive your volume on premise. Yes.
Okay. So then bottles come later, or cans or bottles come
Bottles are your secondary focus.
or your secondary first. Okay. Thank you.
these guys could come in with a lot of volume at once since it's such a big brewery. So, and we got a lot of bottles out to retail.
But when you go on premise, is it only tap? They're not carrying your bottles
they're both.
on premise.
They can do as they wish.
Right, but I'm just curious what kind of the blend is as in.
What's the percentage?
The ratio between.
Oh, new market introduction.
Tap pretty much.
No, there's a healthy blend. There's more bottles. Yeah, more bottle placements because it's an easier sell.
Right.
But because there's limited space for both, but there's more of a limited space on draft. So we have currently more bottle placements than draft placements in the on-premise.
And that's talking about the entire state. There are 22,000 liquor licenses in Illinois,
19.
and Wirtz 22, and Wirtz delivers to 19 and a half of them. So
So with your sales with them,
19,500.
So with your sales currently, on-premise taps versus the bottles that you're bringing into like stores and retails and things like that, what's the higher volume that you've seen so far?
For our brands,
For your brands, is it bottles in stores?
off-premise,
Stores, off-premise?
a healthy mix is 60%, 40%.
60% off-premise?
Yes,
Okay.
because you're selling 6 bottles at a time rather than just one.
Right.
Hey guys, I think
Sal.
this question's might be more for Dave, and it's It's a question that I get asked every week out in the market, and it's when I bring in another, new brewer's IPA and put it in front of my customers. Like, do you guys feel that the sky's the limit as far as the craft beer market in Chicago specifically? Because I mean, there's every week you go to any retail store, you see 10 new breweries packages on the shelf. Every week, my job is to get new breweries, into the market, same as you guys. So what do you guys think in terms of like, how long are we going to keep going? How many more great IPAs, for example, can Chicago support, do you think?
It's a great question. I mean, I wrote a big article on this in the Mash Ton a couple months back, but where obviously the saturation point in the market is a moving target, because as more craft beer drinkers join the party, that line goes up. But I equated it to being able to find fresh beer. If you can't go to the store and get fresh beer anymore, then that's a saturation point. And I've been to some pretty big beer stores recently where I've walked out with beer I was not expecting to buy because it was the only thing brewed within the last couple months. Shelf space, a lot of warm storage is happening out there, which is killing our beer. Chris is here from Beer Temple and does everything, so far is doing everything the right way, which is great. If everyone followed his model and put UV coating on the lights and refrigerated everything he could and make sure he's rotating and ordering properly, then this would be a much better marketplace. But the people who think that just having a lot of different SKUs on their shelf or at their bar, on their menu, I think they're doing a disservice. I try to buy my beer at a place that's smaller, where there's more rotation, where I know I can get some fresh beer. That's what when I go looking for beer, I'm going in for a pale ale or a porter. I go in saying I'm going to buy the freshest beer in the building. I don't care what style it is. So I don't know if that answered your question at all, but yes, it's hard to say this IPA is better than these other 100 IPAs that are awesome. So
Awesome. Well, thanks for the questions, guys. We've gone for about 70 minutes now, which is usually the point in time where everyone needs another beer. So thank you for joining me. There's a lot of great people here tonight, and probably one of our better turnouts yet. So thanks for coming out. If you like what we did here tonight, we do have a full day conference that we're putting on in Boston on May 2nd. And we'll be doing another one in San Diego in December. It's a full day event that we bring a lot of great speakers to, and we'll have one pretty significant announcement coming tomorrow, I think, if you pay attention to Brewbound tomorrow. There'll be one more being announced for our May 2nd event. Anyways, thanks for coming out. Thank you guys for joining me. You guys were awesome. How about a round of applause for these guys? And get another beer at the Hop Leaf and tip your bartender. All right, guys. Thanks.
Beers are on Chris.
Yes, beers are on me. My tab's open. Yeah. Just kidding.